Absolutely nothing wrong with that, my old son. Now, Ronald McIntosh, the BBC boxing frontman, has been doing a turn each week. You remember that? Now, he's been looking at all sorts of things over the last couple of weeks. We've had a bit of a laugh. We had David Haye. Where's David Haye? I asked him, and he said, well, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And we waited for a world title fight to be announced. It wasn't. Then last week we did several other bits and pieces, and it's been good. Ronald's been sort of adding bits and pieces. This week it's a little bit more serious, because last Saturday morning at a luxurious resort in Brazil near Recife, Arturo Gatti was found dead by his 23-year-old wife, a woman he'd met in a strip bar in New York. It took about 24 hours for the Brazilian police to put together a bloody strap from a handbag and a bloody steak knife and charge her, or take her into custody. Ronald's not in the studio tonight, which is a big pity. He's up in Manchester. You might have heard him earlier on talking a little bit to Amir Khan, but he does join me now from the studio there. Ronald, are you there?
I am here, Bunsey. How you doing, man?
Yeah, fantastic. You sound good. Listen, Ron, we can't do any jokes today. This thing with Gatti, and we know he was colourful on both sides of the ropes, but is there, before we get into a list of people that have found themselves, you know, early violent deaths, any more news on his wife or the case itself? Any updates?
Well, if we just break down the chronology that you just hinted at, when he was found early on Saturday morning, the last time he was seen in public, he and his wife, they'd been out for dinner. They were enjoying their second honeymoon down there at that luxurious resort in Brazil. Had an argument which several eyewitnesses saw. Eyewitnesses report that he pushed her to the ground. She suffered injuries to her chin and her elbow. He then went home. That's the last time anybody saw him. Her version of events is that she found him 6 o'clock in the morning. She assumed he's committed suicide. Now, Brazilian police are dismissing her side of the story. They're saying that no one else could have been involved. They're charging her. They're saying that she's the person who committed the crime. Now, the way Brazilian law works, police accuse a person of a crime, but it's up to the prosecutor to formally file a charge.
Okay.
And so they've got until July 22nd, just a few days' time, to deliver their findings to the prosecutor's office.
And is she being held, Ron, or is she being released?
She's being held. She's in prison. She's being detained over there. Wow. She's written a letter which had been given to the AP news agency, proclaiming her innocence, saying that she would never do such a thing. Her husband was the love of her life. He was crazy about her. Her family are supporting her version of events as well, saying that they were crazy about one another. There's no way such a slight waif could deal with a former boxing champion.
But he was drunk. Everyone is saying that he was absolutely paralytic.
That's another side to the story, because the police are opining now that she may have plied him with drink in order to carry out this grisly crime. They're saying it could have been premeditated. The police are saying that he was drunk to the point of incapacitation. Now, as you said, there are two injuries. He was strangled and there's a stab wound in the back of his head. They don't know which way round the injuries occurred, whether he was strangled first then stabbed, or stabbed first and then strangled.
It's grisly and it's gruesome, but Ronald, it's just the latest in and I shouldn't use the word, but in a glorious list of grisly and gruesome and brutal and violent deaths of boxers.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, these guys leave the ring. Sometimes they haven't even left the ring, but there seems to be a higher proportion of violent, untimely demises of high-profile and elite fighters in this sport than in any other. I mean, if we begin with Trevor Berbick, the guy, well, last week you did what, 7 degrees of separation between Chris Eubank and George Chuvalo, right?
Yeah. And Berbick was in that, you remember?
And in Trevor Berbick, we've got 1 degree of separation between boxing icons. One of only 2 men to fight Iron Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali.
Of course.
Last man to fight Muhammad Ali in a drama in the Bahama, then got knocked senseless in 2 rounds by Iron Mike Tyson. Well, after that loss to Iron Mike, he started getting in trouble with the law. He apparently put a gun to one of his manager's head, saying that showed him 40 grand. He was charged with sexual assault of a family babysitter. Encountering all kinds of problems outside of the ring. He was deported to Jamaica, living there, and in 2006 found dead in a church courtyard
Bludgeoned, wasn't he bludgeoned?
Chop wounds to the back of his head. The weapons that were used, a pipe and a crowbar, and get this, it's his nephew.
That's what
Harold Burbick.
Has he actually been charged, the nephew? Because I sort of remember that, it sort of vanished.
No, Harold Burbick's been given life imprisonment, man, and
Okay,
his
I wasn't
accomplice,
sure.
Kenton Gordon, sentenced to 14 years. So uncle and nephew, it was a land dispute that was the cause of this ruckus, and the bottom line is chop wounds in the back of Trevor Burbick's head with those type of blunt implements, a pipe and a crowbar, left for dead, 56 years old when he died.
Oh yeah, but again, as you say, it's some of them don't get to live that long. Some of them get taken earlier. But no, with regard to Burbick, I mean, he had a sort of fairly checkered past. But Gatti was just colourful. It wasn't any suggestion he was, you know, out being a bad boy, was there?
No, there were hints that in the past he was hit with, well, in April this year, as a matter of fact, he was hit with a restraining order from some kind of bit of domestic dispute with his wife.
There's history, man.
But then the domestic dispute somehow materialized into a second honeymoon. They were down there apparently in Brazil having the time of their life.
You're not going to sing that, are you? Having the time of their lives.
No, that's beyond me.
Listen, I don't know, but I've got to ask you, just in case you're going to burst into song, because I know your wife's a singer, and I'm just wondering if she's been giving you special lessons, brother. If I didn't ask, Ronnie, I wouldn't be doing my job, would I? Now, Ron, listen. I know, we shouldn't make light of it. It's happened. I know you've been up there, I know you've probably got a whole list of violent and vicious deaths, but let's leave them for a minute. You've been up there.